Hi, hello everybody. My name is Sofija and I am speaking today on behalf of a coalition of different groups that have been resisting the Rio Tinto lithium mine in Western Serbia, and also as a PhD researcher at the University of Cambridge, combining organizing and insights from academia. Alongside my colleague Nina, our insights and questions come from both academia, organizing, and lived experience. So it's not on behalf of one group, but a coalition. I note that the Jadar project hasn't been mentioned today, despite your ongoing activities, including your representative in Serbia, announcing the company was now actively campaigning to revive the Jadar project just this week, a few days ago on national TV. Hundreds of thousands of citizens have been saying no to the project for years, so the current campaign to revive it through the media, as well as significant investments in the country, both to different projects for local communities, but also otherwise. After the project's cancellation and following the citizens' resistance, it sounds like the opposite of listening, which you have been talking to us about a lot today, and the opposite of care, frankly. It is perceived as undemocratic and as social engineering of acceptance, and it also threatens to stoke social conflict. I'd say if you were actually listening, you'd hear that the answer was a firm no, and it has been for a while, coming from many different groups in Serbia and internationally. So my question first, and then I'll move on to a question that remains unanswered from the local groups, is in line with your ESG and the 3C commitments, why do you not accept and clearly communicate to your ownership that you have lost trust in Serbia? Why do you not take the responsibility for this flop, repair the impacted land, and withdraw, as the local groups alongside allies have been asking you to do for a while? And I move to the questions from the local groups that remain unanswered despite these being asked at many events organized by the company as well as other stakeholders, including the government. Why had you started buying up land and properties in the Jadar Valley before receiving the necessary permits and project approval? In light of the statements made by government officials alluding to corruption, had any promises been made to you around the project going ahead, given the ahead of time? So those are my questions.
Okay.
And I'll hand over to Nina after your comments.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me start, and I might get Sinead or Jakob to add to it. I think that first of all, we have heard the concerns. We see that, and the people have about the project. We don't believe that the project has to come at the cost of the natural environment and the region's agricultural industries. We think there's significant potential for the country, and we have been listening, talking to 3,000 different people to hear more views of where they are. But I would just underscore it, all of this, by saying it's ultimately up to the people and the government of Serbia as to whether we would be permitted to do anything. It's up to the people of Serbia and the government. That's where it is. I don't know, Sinead, if you want to add anything.
Thank you. I think the comments you've made are very valid, and thanks for the question. We firmly believe that the Jadar project, which will be an underground lithium mine built to the highest environmental standards and to international standards, both from the EU and outside the EU, is a very possible project to develop without compromising on the well-being of the environment in the region. We completed environmental impact assessments as part of the permitting process many years ago, and we did not publish those reports because the permits were annulled by the Serbian government, and we fully respect that decision. We've really been doing two things since that time. We've been really working to engage, as the chairman has said, with as many people as will speak to us in all walks of life in Serbia to really understand and listen to their concerns, and also to provide them with information on the project, because we never really had the opportunity to explain what the project will be as part of that permitting process, because the permits were cancelled before that time. The second thing we've been doing is publishing as much information as we can on our website, and also sharing that both locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally to explain what the project would be if it is built, and really taking that information on board as well. So we remain committed to continuing to engage with the Serbian people, with civil society, and also with the government and stakeholders to look at the merits of the project. And as the chairman has said, it will be ultimately to the Serbian people to decide. But we believe it's still worth looking deep and hard at that project to see how it could be developed responsibly for the benefit of the people of Serbia. Thank you.
What many researchers call social engineering. And also, can you please address the question around buying up land, property, and corruption that was made from local groups, please?
Sorry, yes, yeah, I heard your second question. Look, we bought a lot of land when we had the licenses, and then 2 years ago they were annulled, and that's the reason why we own a lot of the land.
If I can just follow up on that, thank you. My name is Nina Đukanović, and as Sofia mentioned, we work as colleagues. I'm also a researcher at the University of Oxford, and I spent last few years working with the local community and in solidarity with them and other activist groups. I want to follow up on some of your comments that you made in your initial speech, where you stress this tension that you see between the social and environmental issues and the permitting process as one of the main challenges towards tackling climate change, essentially. And we heard a lot about the importance of critical raw materials and the role that Rio Tinto sees as having. I think in the context of lithium in Serbia, this is very important because you continue to talk about this in the context of the green transition, but in fact you're creating the false binary between climate change and protecting the environment, because the local groups in the Jadar Valley are living in close relationship with our environment, and you are saying that they are going to decide, but they have already decided multiple times. I appreciate that you have talked to anyone who is willing to talk to you, and you mentioned about 3,000 people. May I remind you that during the protests we have seen more than 100,000 people at the height of the protest that was in autumn and winter 2021 across more than 50 Serbian cities, blocking highways, roads and bridges for several weeks, finally ultimately leading to the cancellation of the project. Why do you continue to engage with this? And why do you continue to promote this narrative, which frankly is a very narrow understanding of the energy transition, which does not take into account anything regarding justice and anything regarding the local rights? The locals have rejected the mine, and to suggest, as some representatives of your company in Serbia have, and as you have now, is that ignoring that the rejection of the project somehow means ignoring the importance of tackling climate change, is a gross distortion of reality on the grounds where people are protecting their right to have a different sustainable future that is based on their relationship with the land and on the clean water, air and soil. So, frankly, my question is whether you are going to acknowledge that Rio Tinto is one of the most polluting companies historically, and that the mining industry is one of the biggest drivers of deforestation and biodiversity globally. And the government data in Serbia have shown that carbon emissions from mining and pollution are projected to rise dramatically, and a few wind turbines and solar panels are not going to change that. Are you going to acknowledge that, and why do you continue this greenwashing narrative despite the clear rejection from the local population and the wider activist groups, both in Serbia and elsewhere? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I think as Sinead said, there was not very much information at all that Rio Tinto was able to put out. You mentioned the impact assessment. We were trying to follow all of the policies, and so we think that there is a lot of not all of the information that should be out there is out there, and that's on us in terms of how we communicate. But there's a sense too of making sure that all the information that we have is there for people to understand at least what it is holistically. As Sinead said, there's also been the input that we heard affected and changed the design of how that would work. But at the end of the day, I just go back to what I said before, it's going to be up to the people and the government of Serbia to decide whether to do it. that's the bottom line.